So, I believe we are now rolling. Yep, the numbers are increasing. That's a sign that we're rolling, and the record sign is on, so we're definitely on.
Okay.
All right. So it's Wednesday, October 28th, 2009. It's gonna keep happening. Hello. It's delicious. It's Wednesday, October 28th, 2009. I'm just curious to hear any stories that interest you. Although I'll tell you that my main interest is you guys, because I know you, right? I mean, of course, I want to hear about your great-grandparents in Ohio. Of course, I want to hear about that. But since I know you, I would love to hear about just stories of when you were kids growing up in Seekonk and what that was like. And I've already seen quite a bit of banter today from grade school and beyond, so I'm sure we'll see more. And if we can talk about, Luther and Fanny and Vermont, great, because I didn't really know my grandparents either, and I would love to learn more about them.
Well, shall we start with our mother?
Okay.
And,
Mom.
And how she came to be.
Okay.
Long ago,
far away.
There was a
Mother's
happy
father.
dragon.
He's rehearsed this.
I'm gonna check the camera. Yeah.
Mother's father was one of 5 brothers from Ohio. And his brother was the aide-de-camp to General Grant.
Colby,
When he became old enough,
Colby,
Joanne,
serve
come
in
and
the
take
Civil
this
War.
dog.
I'm coming.
Just hold that thought for a second. I'm
There we
sorry.
go. Dog is
I
loud.
was distracted and I didn't mean to
So, mother's father's brother was an aide-de-camp to General Grant in the Civil War.
in the Civil War, and when he was old enough to join the Army said, "You've done enough." His family, you don't have to serve.
be. My grandmother's brother was in the Civil War?
Yes.
That's
Well,
right.
she
Great-grandmother.
was great-grandmother. Okay, good job, yeah.
61 war begun.
No, 64 the war was over. Now, hang on.
65 not a man
Actually, it was
alive.
65.
Jonathan wants to hear this stuff.
I do.
So, end of the war comes. This son, the great-grandfather, has never been to Europe. It's a family tradition that they go to Europe and then they go to work. So another brother says, "Come on, I'll take you off." So the two of them head to Europe. Somewhere along the line, they're in a bar or something or other, and they flip a coin to see who's going to get the prostitute. Our grandfather lost. The other guy won. He got syphilis and never came home.
Oh my
Never
God!
returned
This
to
is
the United
during the Civil War.
No, this
After
is
the-
after the
after
war.
the Civil
You
War.
gotta stay with the program here.
I'm trying.
Yep. It's
But
not
somehow-
easy sometimes.
You guys are because you already know these facts and I'm new to them. I will be slower.
Somehow, grandfather, your great-grandfather, was a very personable person, and he made lots of friends in Europe, one of whom was a princeling. In fact, they became best friends. And the prince married
Really?
An Italian prince.
an Italian prince.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And they have a child. And the midwife presents the little baby girl to your great-grandfather,
The American.
the American, who then presents the child to the father.
That's French.
Well, shortly after that, the father of the little girl is killed in a riding accident. Well, it turns out that the mother of the little girl, your great-grandmother, was really in love with the younger son all along, the brother of her husband who has just died. So they get married instantly. The brother of the husband who has just died doesn't like having the little girl around. So the little girl is raised by her grandfather, who is an ambassador.
Is a little girl going to end up being?
Yes,
Phyllis?
you got it.
No.
No.
Okay.
You got to wait.
Okay.
You got to
It
remember that
gets
Italy
better.
was a very new country.
Okay, so what I have so far is that my great-grandfather and his brother were in the Civil War, and they went to Europe. The brother died of syphilis, and my great-grandfather was friends with an Italian princeling who died, and there's a baby.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. And the baby is raised by the grandfather,
We will not have a test later.
who is
Well-
an ambassador. So the little girl was raised in the Russian court. She meets the Tsar Nicholas, plays with the little girls. Then they move to...
The princeling's daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Who was raised by the grandfather, who was an ambassador. The ambassador is then assigned to the court of St. James, and she meets Queen Victoria, goes to dinner with Queen Victoria, plays with the children.
Wow.
She now is getting on in age, and he's now posted to the United States. And he has arranged for her to be married to a German prince. She didn't like the German prince, so she asks her grandfather, if I find a suitable person, will that be all right? Well, the only person she really knows in this country is her father's old friend. So she contacts her father's old friend, who's 65 years old.
We're not talking 100 years ago.
Who's 65 years old. She said, would you like to get married? And he says, well, I'm going to talk to your grandfather. So the grandfather and he come to an agreement. He's very wealthy. And they decide it's okay. So they get married. She's 18, he's 65.
Wow.
They have 3 children. Your grandmother, Phyllis, Elizabeth, who you knew, and Uncle Louis.
Wow. So they're sort of royalty then in a way. I didn't know that.
Not really, no. No, well, yes, because my mother's father, known as Daddy, was into railroading, and after the Civil War, railroading was springing up out of the ground like the internet now, so they were American royalty.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a story that he was the president or on the board of more railroads than anyone else.
But the thing that gets me is that while my mother was born when her father was 65, he was born when his father was 55. So my mother's grandfather was born in 1787, 11 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. There's 2 missing generations in that family.
Wow.
So he was 22 when Washington died in 1800.
And your great-grandmother, the princess, or whatever you call her,
Phyllis's mother.
Phyllis's
Hortense.
mother, Hortense, was born before electricity was really going. She saw airplanes come, she saw trains come.
High button shoes.
Yep.
Yep.
Wow.
And my father had a deal with her, which was that he sent money and she never entered the New England states during his lifetime.
Hortense,
Hortense, they did
the
not
little
get
girl who
along.
became,
They didn't get along.
yes,
Not at all.
Oh.
yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess she was sort of tough.
I've
Now,
never.
we ought to
Yeah.
talk about Nick, your grandfather.
My grandfather.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nicholas V or something, I guess.
Whatever.
Yeah. Lots of Nicholas.
Lots of Nicholas.
Well, it's funny being named Montserrat because Montserrat is a guy, a lawyer from Chicago,
Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, who kind of
Drifted in.
drifted in and then drifted out.
Oh.
Gaga divorced him.
And then he quietly drank himself to
Thought he
death.
was supposed to be. Wait
So-
a minute.
Gaga is your grandmother.
We got
Yes.
a different story here.
Oh, what's your story?
I thought she divorced him because he drank.
Yes,
right.
that's right.
Then after she divorced him, he quietly drank himself to death.
I thought it was the other way. That after she divorced him, he stopped the drink.
Oh, it got on the
And
straight and narrow?
He got into William Howard Taft politics.
Oh.
And became a Washington file when Taft was elected president.
Oh, I'll be damned. I didn't
And
know
what
that.
happened to him from there, I don't know. But now I heard
Well-
that from somewhere.
Well,
Obviously, I
Gaga's,
don't make it up.
Gaga's companion, years later, saw him getting on a train somewhere. And didn't greet him because she thought he was a terrible man.
Nasty man. Is
Nasty
that Hope?
man. No, the other companion, the one who's in the pictures, in the movie picture. I just
I
can't
haven't
remember
a
her
clue.
name. I can't
Mary
remember.
or Marie or
No,
something?
no. Well, anyway, Gaga. She's now divorced.
Your father's mother.
Our father's mother. She has 3 children: Nicholas, Emily, and Luther.
Now, before we go on, you ought to say that Gaga's mother was out of Cincinnati, Bingham, and the daughter of the second largest music publisher in the world, who owned a block of Cincinnati, which came down to all her descendants and which the government just screwed us out of.
Yes.
And
Sorry about that.
her father
Me too.
was a Graves out of Bennington, Vermont, with the guy who started with a tin pack on his back and
Right.
wound up with a horse load of needles and so on, selling it to the farmers.
I
And
thought he was
then,
a tinker.
yeah, he was a tinker. And then he started a business where he sent out tinkers.
Mm.
And then there was the money problems in Bennington, not enough of it, so he started the Bennington Bank.
Yep.
Okay, so,
So, Gaga has 3 kids, no husband. And she moves to Providence, Rhode Island.
because her oldest, her
Her
Brother.
mother,
her brother,
her brother, has started Franklin Process Company, which is the world's largest dye house in Providence, Rhode Island.
They dyed knitting yarn.
Wow.
he went to Worcester Polytech.
So it's Nicholas, Emily, and Luther.
Yes.
Yep.
And then on Phyllis's side, there were 5 of them, you said?
3.
I'm sorry, 3.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Oh, of course, Elizabeth.
Well, let's put them in age order. Louis was the son, who
Louis,
was the
right.
firstborn.
Right, Louis.
Then there was Phyllis, and then there was Elizabeth.
And the mystery girl.
Yes, the mystery girl from Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh,
We don't know. What was her name?
Oh,
I used to know too.
yes.
Oh, was she a mystery? Was she
Not
Elizabeth?
Elise.
No, she
Nobody
was
knew
always
where
with the
she
family.
came
She was
from.
always part of the family. She
I
sent
was-
us Christmas presents.
And she lived in Florence.
Yeah, and she
I was told that her parents died and were dear friends of mother and father's,
Yes.
and that she just kind of was taken in by the family, and Joanne says that she was a blow-by.
From one of Daddy's.
Yeah, one of Daddy's.
Who knows? But
Well,
anyway, we're
surprised
going to
me
talk
at all.
about Phyllis.
Yes, okay.
So, now about Nick. We've done doomed Phyllis.
Well, to
so-
talk about Louis in the war, but yeah, okay.
Gaga's father has just died.
Nick's grandmother's father has just died.
Yes. Nick's grandmother?
Nick's mother's
Father
father has just
died.
Yeah.
So she decides to move to where her son is, which is Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
So she
That's Fanny.
buys a house on the east side of Providence. And Gaga moves in with her, with their 3 children.
That's what we called our grandmother.
She doesn't stay there very long, maybe a year or so. Nick and Luther go to Moses Brown, and Emily goes to Mary C. Wheeler. But that only lasts a short time. And then they decide, I think, that school isn't good enough, and they go to
Amherst?
Amherst, no, where it was,
Yeah, the boys' school in Andover?
Andover. They go to
Andover.
Andover.
Yeah.
And Nick graduates from Andover.
Right.
Gaga now has the wanderlust. And I guess she has plenty of money. So she heads to Europe.
Paris.
Paris. She takes an apartment in Paris near the racetrack, which is a very social area. We're going to come back to her in just a minute.
Okay.
Nick is sent to...
I swear he's rehearsed all this.
No, I've written it all
He's,
down.
he's
though.
just good
Oh,
at
okay.
it.
He does
Nick-
very well.
Nick,
Yeah,
Nick, Nick,
he's good.
Nick,
Trained executive.
Nick goes to the University of Birmingham
Yeah,
and gets
In
a
Alabama.
degree. No,
Did
in
he have a
England.
In
degree?
England, excuse
In
me.
England.
I'll be damned. I didn't know he had a degree.
Yeah. He then goes to Cambridge, and he talks about Quiller Couch, who was a very, very famous English use of the English language person. Wrote lots
Oh.
of books,
Linguistics.
linguistics. He then
Thesaurus.
goes to the Sorbonne, where he takes some classes.
In
Meanwhile,
Paris.
in Paris. Meanwhile, our mother, we're going to drift back to her now.
Who's been educated in Portuguese convent schools.
Yes, she goes to convent schools. Mother and Aunt Elizabeth. Aunt Elizabeth is the youngest child ever to go to these convents. Her parents just drift around the world. They don't own a house. They just go to this hotel and this hotel, or take a house here or take a house there. They're on the jet set.
Only with steamlining.
Although it was steamliners.
Yeah.
So mother now decides, and she's been very well educated, that she's going to go to university, which is kind of a surprise.
Yes, you forgot to say that they were interned in World War I and had to be
True.
supported by the servants.
True. During World War I,
They were
Their
in Vienna
mother-
when the war started.
their mother was putting them back into boarding school. So the two girls were in Vienna with their mother, and the father and their son, Louis, were in Switzerland. War is declared, these Americans are interned, their servants have to go to work to make money for them. The little girls still go to convent school. They're invited to all the big dances and so forth, and mother had a top dresser drawer that was full of hat bands, ribbons, that the young officer sailors would wear. And she would collect them at a dance because she was cute. And
She
would
was
say,
full of beans too.
she would say,
She was a
this boy
fox.
died 1 week after, this boy died, this boy died.
Yeah.
She had all these ribbons with the name of the vessel on it in her
Hat
top
bands.
dresser drawer. Hat bands.
Austrian Navy ran up and down the Danube River.
Getting killed.
Anyway, back to
When you say that they were interred, they were in a camp. or
No,
something.
they just couldn't leave the country.
I
Their
see.
papers were taken from
yank their passports.
them. So now the war is over. Mother is educated. Louis is actually going to the Polytech in Zurich, and mother decides she's going to go to the University of Zurich and take chemistry. She is under Dr. Kara, who was a very famous chemist at the time. I think he had a Nobel Prize. And she's on a path to become a doctor. Nick, meanwhile, has decided that his love is internal combustion engines, and the next great breakthrough is going to be in combustion, and that is obviously chemistry. And the best place for chemistry is the University of Zurich. So he goes to the University of Zurich, where he meets mother, and they met on the library stairs. One was coming down a spiral staircase, and
I
the
have
other
the
was going up.
stairs, by the way.
Do you?
Yes.
Oh, mom's little pin.
That's the one that I got.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they became attracted to each other.
The dog. The dog left mom and followed pop.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Really?
Now, mother,
That's the,
strangely enough, raced cars.
yeah.
And she and her brother had a Bugatti or two.
What they did was they saved their money together to buy a car, but Louis bought the car, so he bought a bloody Bugatti.
She must have been a very unusual lady to be
Oh,
racing
yes.
cars and going to grad school
She
in
was
the
the- yes,
20s or whenever
yes.
this was.
She was the fastest
20s.
woman in Europe.
Yeah. there
Yes.
you go.
And there are still race courses in Switzerland that she
She
holds the record for. Now, she holds the
Really?
records because the courses are closed.
Ah.
But her name is still on the list. But anyway, they get married. And they have a Bugatti, an emo car, and
Amil.
Amil car, and
Pronunciation's terrible.
something else.
Meanwhile, Luther's gotten killed.
Yes.
In a fire. I remember this.
No.
Wrong Luther.
Auto accident.
Wrong Luther.
Wrong Luther. Sorry.
I'm Luther and his best friend, who is Joseph C. Harsh, who later becomes a very famous columnist for the Christian Science Monitor.
Yeah. During World War II, he was the prince.
He
He
They
was
drive
in
a car.
league with Morrow and so on.
They drive a car to Le Mans. And what was special about this car
Which
was
is
you
chaotic.
skidded around corners, so it had no differential. It was a very fast racing car. And somebody didn't skid it properly and hit a tree, and Luther was killed. So anyway, mother and father get married. They are both disowned by their respective families.
Just
Really?
like me and
Just
Joy.
like you and Joy.
Why is that?
Because they married
Without
with
their parents' consent. How
and
dare
their
you?
parents didn't know what kind of person she was.
That's right, or he was. So they live in Bray, France. And Nick works for a tractor company designing engines. They attend a
Sorry
Hitler
about
rally
that.
in Vienna, where her brother is now living because he has married a Viennese woman who owns Gerstner's, which is the
Her
largest,
parents owned it.
The big caterer.
which is the biggest caterer in Vienna.
Oh, I remember this.
Now-
This is Louis used.
That's right.
That's right.
So they attend a Hitler rally in Vienna, and they come back to their house in Gray, and one of them turns to the other and says, "Do you realize we were cheering? It's time to go home." So they leave. They
Get
come
the
back to
hell
the
out of
United
here.
States. They go to
Wait,
California.
this is grandma and grandpa.
Yeah, our parents
Your parents leave
Yeah. leave.
because of just they could see trouble coming.
They realize that those who burn books will eventually burn people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they go to California. They take a steamship through the Panama Canal, and they end up in California because it's not quite sure why they went to California.
Oh, I know
Grandfather-
why.
Why?
Daddy had migrated to California and had
Yeah, that's right. He was
two
in California.
rental houses. One was just south of Los Angeles, and the other one was on the island. Santa Cruz, is
Santa
it?
Barbara.
Santa Barbara. He was at a place on the island.
Okay.
Now, why Daddy was there and what was going on and
And
where
why?
Daddy's wife was, I don't know. But there are pictures of Daddy with the palm trees in
Oh,
California.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
So
you're right.
mother and father moved in with them. Mother got a job with the Los Angeles Waterworks.
This is after the crash when the money
Yeah.
disappeared.
Daddy, when they landed, Daddy had given them a Cord convertible with a big supercharged engine. And the only thing they had left in the world was this automobile. This big, fancy, high-speed automobile.
Yeah, Mom used to she got a job with the water department because they decided that they needed someone, they'd hire the best qualified person, and of course that was a PhD in chemistry.
Yeah.
But all they needed was a technician. But she liked to say that she'd come home at night, and there would be her father and my father sitting on the front steps, telling stories, smoking cigars, playing the banjo.
Yeah.
And as she
Pop
stepped
played the
between
banjo.
them, they would look up and say, "What's for dinner?"
So this was in California then.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
During the Depression.
So
In
Pop
fact, in
got,
Hollywood.
Pop got a job as a draftsman.
No, he got a job as a roustabout
Yeah.
in the oil fields.
No. First he got a job as a draftsman.
Okay.
And the owner of the company looked out the window and saw the car and
Ah.
said, "Who owns the car?" And they said, "Montserrat." And he said, "Fire the bastard, he doesn't need this job." Then he got the job as a roustabout,
And his job
What
was
is the rust about?
walking the gas lines.
Rough work.
Inspecting the gas lines.
His main
rough work.
one was maintaining a pumping station in the
Yeah.
oil field.
For a while he was the guy who put the stink in natural gas,
Yeah.
which is
we'd
much
climb
fun.
up the big gasometer
Hydrogen
and pour in a
sulfide.
little bottle of stuff.
It was a bucket.
Whatever.
Hydrogen
Whatever,
sulfide.
yeah.
Now-
He saw a stack fail. He was stacking gas, and the flame went out, and it built up, and exploded,
Wow.
and knocked, suddenly around the ground, kind of thing.
I remember Pop saying that it was okay if you spilled half a bucket of hydrogen sulfide on you. You were so drowned in it you couldn't smell it. But
Oh.
if you got one drop,
You were in trouble.
hydrogen sulfide is the gas you smell when
In rotten eggs.
Exactly. You know all about it, I
I
guess.
don't know all about it, but I
Well,
was just
Time marches on.
It's not my intention to interrupt you, but I'd like to demonstrate that I have been paying attention to some of these stories
Okay.
over the years.
Go Tom.
A lot of times I'm confused, but today I'm going to interrupt and ask questions if I have to. That way
That's
I'll
all
be
right.
I'll be less confused.
You inherit that from me. My natural state is lost and confused.
Time marches on. And
Just do it, Joe. Don't worry
I
about it.
can't have to, I got blood on my
Yeah.
smoke.
where do you get blood?
Well, maybe this would be a stopping
Because I
point.
scratched my
Why don't
arm.
we stop
Shut
for a
it
minute?
off for a minute. We can take a leak.
Shut her off, and we'll
Okay.
take a leak in. I don't want the files to get too big, Jim.
Okay.